Good evening. It's good to be here with you all the way from Portland. This is where I'm coming from. When I'm not writing or doing something that makes money, I'm out in the woods and usually hanging around Mount Hood. So it's nice to be with you guys. And Birgit, thanks for inviting Jesse and I to do this presentation tonight. I hope we're going to answer some of your questions about blogging. So as we talk tonight, I'm going to go through some points about why to blog and how to do it, how to get ideas for blogging, and then Jesse's going to do a little case study of the Crew Trust. If you come up with questions while we're talking, jot them down, and we'll have time at the end to hopefully answer everything you want to know about blogging. So let's get going here. The first thing I want to talk about is why we should blog. You know, as a nonprofit, what's the point? Because it can be time consuming and it takes some skill. And if you really don't have staff and you don't have time, then, you know, why should you do this in the first place? So here's some reasons to blog. And Birgit, I believe, is going to provide this slideshow and my outline to you afterwards. So feel free to not try to write everything down. You'll have this available to you later. But one of the reasons to blog, and the number one reason that most marketers will tell you, is to boost your appearance in a Google search. You're a nonprofit, you want people to know about you. And when people get online and start asking questions and searching for things, you want your nonprofit to show up in that search engine. How do you do that? There's some ways to do it, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's the big reason. Get yourself out there and let people find you. You also want to be sure that when you blog, it changes what's on your webpage. You know, the whole purpose is to drive people to your website. So you want to keep your site fresh so people who come back to it see something new every time, or they know there's going to be something new there. So blogging regularly adds new content to your website. And some nonprofits will actually have the homepage of their website as their blog, so that anytime somebody returns to it, they see something new on that page. You don't have to do that, but that's one strategy to use. The third thing, you want to provide some value to your readers. Well, and first of all, you have to know who your readers are. So who's coming to your website? Who's going to read your blog? And whoever that is, whether it's clients or donors or supporters or the general public, you want to provide something that they need. You can tell your story, but you also want to give them information that's helpful for them to learn about what you do. I'll give you an example. Let's take a for-profit company, for example, Kohler Plumbing. They have a blog that talks about, you know, things you should be aware of when you're buying a new faucet. And that doesn't necessarily drive somebody to go buy their faucet, but it gives them some real valuable information. So like the Crew Trust is all about conservation. So one of the things that the Crew Trust can do to provide value to their readers is to provide blogs about water conservation, to provide blogs about wetlands and the value of wetlands, to provide blogs about recreation on public lands and where are places in Southwest Florida that you can go to hike. Not necessarily just to Crew, but all those pieces of information provide some value to the readers, and they're coming to your site to get it. A fourth reason, There's a marketing guru out of Washington, D.C. called Marcus Sheridan, and he says that blogging helps to sharpen your sword. And what he means by that is, think about this for a minute. If you're blogging about your mission, you're writing about your mission, you're thinking about your mission and what you do and the impact that you have in the community, then you are really going to start to hone in on what your mission really is. It helps you to see what's important. So blogging can help you and your executive director and all the staff in your organization to think more deeply about what your purpose is. And if you can write about that in some creative ways, that's going to help your organization in the long run. The fifth reason to blog is to boost your authority. And what do I mean by that? The Crew Trust is all about conservation. So if they're writing about conservation issues, about wildlife and habitat, wetlands, the Crew Trust is also about recreation on public lands. So writing about those things regularly will get people to come to you and begin to see you and your nonprofit as the authority on those things. So try to be the authority in your field. If it's an Alzheimer's support group, for example, provide all kinds of resources about being a caregiver, about different stages of Alzheimer's. People can come to that organization and see that they're the authority. You are the authority in your field. As you blog, one of the things that you will do is share your blogs on social media, share links on Twitter, on Facebook, share it in your emails to your donors, to your clients. And so in doing that, hopefully you're going to connect with people. You're going to get them to come to your site, read your blog, and then you're going to ask them to make a comment. You may have links in there for them to share. So you might even ask some of the people that work with your organization or that you help, your clients, your customers. You want them to write for you as guest bloggers. That's a really cool way to get other people involved with the blog and get other people to read it. So you can connect to other people. You might even find other organizations that are doing the same thing that you're doing in another state that you can share blog posts with. So as you connect, you build your network, not only for people you serve and for your donors, but among other organizations like yours. The bonus reason, of course, is that, the big reason is for you to share your story. The whole way that you get new donors, the whole reason that you blog is to tell people about the impact you're making. What are you doing for the community? So you can share personal stories. You might even have people behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know what you do, all the work that goes into providing the service you provide for your organization. And it's kind of cool for them to see, like at Crew, Jesse does a lot of education programs, but part of what Crew does is help manage land. So it's kind of cool to do a quick little video on prescribed fire and habitat management and throw that up on a blog, and then people think, wow, there's a whole lot more going on here than I ever thought about the Crew Trust. So give them some behind the scenes of your story as well as the impact that you make every day. And of course, it's a really great place to invite people to your events and to advertise things that you're doing, fundraisers. Those are all good things to blog about as well. So now that you know why to blog, let's look at how to blog. There's a real easy way to start, and that is to pull up a WordPress blog, something that's free, and literally just get in there, start a new post, put a title, write a paragraph, throw in a picture, and be done with it. That's an easy way to get started, and if that's all you can do to begin with, that's okay. But there's some other things that you can do to make your blog really impactful. And the first one is to vary your content. Think about blogs that you read, even newsletters or email blasts that you read. People love visuals, so add a little embedded video. Put really good photographs in there. Stories about the people in your organization. Features. Maybe you do something the same every single week, so people come back every Wednesday. Crew does a Wednesday wild file question and answer, and one of their volunteers actually writes up all the things that he's seen on the trail that week. And it's pretty cool because it gets people to the trails, but it also is something that they can come back to every week and see there's something new going on. Another really good thing to do that varies your content and helps make it really fresh and useful is to summarize research. If you're I'm trying to think of a nonprofit like Alzheimer's, or even Crew with conservation, the food bank. What are professional journals saying? You know, what's the new research about Alzheimer's? What's research say about hunger? What's research say about wetlands conservation? And so take those scientific journals and distill them into some lay terms and make a really cool little fresh blog post about this is what's new, this is what the new science says about your field. That's a fun way to pull something kind of heavy into your blog content, but it also is really good information for people to know. Include interviews with people. Interview your volunteers, interview your clients, interview your donors. Just maybe 3 or 4 questions. You pop the question in there and pop their answer in there, and it makes for a nice little added dimension to your nonprofit. I've even seen blogs where nonprofits do book reviews on books that are related to their topic or their field. Or maybe a movie review if something's come out, a documentary film. So those kind of things can be really helpful and varies your content, so it's not always just a bunch of text written on a page about what you do. Number 3, be consistent. It's important to have a voice that people expect when they come to your website. You know, when people come to your website and they read all the content that's there, it has a tone, it has a voice, just like when you read a book. When they come to your blog, you want people to get used to kind of the same voice. If your nonprofit has a brand book and you have particular words, slogans, phrases that you know everybody in your organization is using or should use, then those same phrases, slogans, words ought to be used through your blogging. Not necessarily every time, but make it as consistent as you can. And the last thing you want to do with every blog post is to somehow inspire engagement. And that means at the end of your blog post, if it's a quick little 2-minute video on something behind the scenes, you can simply put a question at the end that says, what do you think? You know, it doesn't have to be some deep thing. It's just, so what do you think? And invite people to comment right there on the page. If you don't want something real general like that, think about how you can ask them a question or call to some kind of action. Maybe it's a little interview with a volunteer, and at the bottom, your engagement is join us if you want to be a volunteer. We're having a volunteer training next month, so and so. So find some kind of way for them to respond so that it becomes a two-way street. Blogging is not supposed to be a one-dimensional activity. So it needs to be social, just like other social media. Let's see. Another cool thing to do would be to thank people. You can use your blog to thank your donors or a particular donor if they don't mind. Thank the staff, thank the volunteers. If you have sponsors, certainly for events, you can put a little blog post up to thank your sponsors at appropriate times of the year. All right. So, let's see. Some nuts and bolts things. We know why to blog now. We've got a little bit of information on how to do it. Make it varied. Be consistent with your voice. But real critical nitty-gritty stuff that helps make your blog stand out from everybody else's, because there are hundreds and thousands and millions of blogs all over the interwebs, right? First of all, good writing does matter. If you want people to come back, you want to have writing that is consistent, that has good grammar, good spelling. All that makes a difference. If you don't have staff or volunteer or someone in your organization that is an excellent writer, then it might be worth your time and money to hire a pro, at least for the beginning. And a pro can help you establish the voice, show you what good writing is, model it for you, and then set you on your way. Good quality visuals are important. You can get all kinds of cool free visuals. Your best bet is going to be to take your own pictures, but make sure you have permission to use people's faces. Faces are really important when you do pictures, especially for nonprofits that are doing work in the community for people. People respond to faces, so that's the best thing to use, is show what your work really does. You want to use important keywords, and we talked about one of the reasons to blog is to drive traffic to your site, right? Well, one of the ways that happens is to use keywords that are related to your field, related to your topic. Use them in the title, use them in the body. Don't overdo it. Lately I've been reading that 10 years ago people would pepper their blog posts with all kinds of keywords in the title and body, and that would raise their rank. Now if you do that and use the same words over and over again, it lowers your rank in Google. So they want synonyms, related words, and don't just use the same words over and over. Another important, really, really, really important thing to do is to have sharing buttons at the bottom of your blog post. Even in the middle, there's this click to tweet thing. So you can have a quote from the middle of your blog, and if it's something really cool, put a click to tweet link in there, and Birgit can show you how to do that, I'm sure. But also at the bottom of your post or at the top of your post, show a little Facebook, a little Twitter, Pinterest, at least 3 or 4 ways people can share, even by email, so that if they like your post, they share it with their friends, send it on. That's what you want, right? To get the word out, drive people back to your site. All right. So now let's talk a little bit about where to get ideas for your posts. And if somebody asked this question on the group Facebook page, where do you get ideas for your posts? And for crew, in the past, Jesse and I have worked on mostly, well, I'd say at the beginning when we started the blog, we were mostly doing what's upcoming, new events, programs that you can attend. If some really cool wildlife sighting occurred, we would put that on there. And now we're really starting to evolve into more value for the reader. You know, we're trying to add more things with the Q&A, the wild file, the what's a watershed. You know, basic things that will help people learn more, not only about crew, but about anything related to water conservation and wildlife in Southwest Florida. So here are some ideas for you. You can look at professional journals, look at other organizations in your field. What are they saying? What are they doing research on? And then use those for ideas for your blog site. You know, if you read a professional newsletter, professional journal from another organization, and there's a really cool little article, it might spark an idea about, well, we do that too, but we do it in a different way. That's a great little post that you can share on your site. Scan social media. Look for what people are talking about, especially if it's in your field. Other organizations that do the things you do. What kinds of things are they writing about? What are people asking questions about? That number 4 down there, ask your readers and clients and donors what they want and need. I mean, there's no better way to give them the content on your blog than by saying, what do you need to know more about? And answer their questions for them. And then I've recently started using this Google Trends. If you've never been to Google Trends, check it out. It's really cool right now. There's all kinds of scary things on there about the election, but you can search in your field. If you're an Alzheimer's organization, search Alzheimer's. Go to Google Trends and type in Alzheimer's, and what it shows you is what people have been searching for on Google. And you can, you know, change the time frame, like in the last 24 hours, in the last 7 days. And that's a really great way to get keywords, because it shows you the words people are using when they're typing in on Google, the questions that they ask. And so you think, well, like I looked up watershed this afternoon because crew is all about water. And watershed was used very little in the United States. But when I changed it and looked at hiking, I found hiking is something everybody's looking at all the time. And it also had hiking trails. So if I'm putting something on about the watershed, I may want to add hiking and hiking trails in to that blog post, or in that title, you know, hike in the watershed or hiking in the watershed, and that'll draw people to my post more than it might have otherwise. So that Google Trends is a really cool place to go and get words and ideas for what people are looking at right now and what they've looked at in the past on Google. The other thing you want to do is encourage, let me go back, when you get a blog post and you get your idea and you get it, your sharing buttons on there and everything, be sure you encourage feedback, be sure you encourage comments. But if you're going to do that, you also want to monitor those comments. Watch for trolls, people who are looking at your blog and then get on there just to say something that's not necessarily appropriate. Watch for inappropriate comments. Watch for spam. If you're going to blog and you ask for comments, you've got to watch what's going on. So in WordPress, if those of you are using WordPress, there's a setting that you can set to make sure you're notified every time a comment is put up there. You can also set it to monitor a comment before it gets posted, and that's what I've always done at Crew. I make sure I have to approve the comments first. So that's a decision that your group will have to make, but it's a real important piece to how to blog and stay on top of it. So how do we make time to blog? I mean, like I said at the beginning, if you don't have a lot of staff and you don't have a lot of money or time in particular, it can be a real challenge, because if you're like most small nonprofits, you're doing 100 things every day, and this just feels like one more thing you have to do. So I'm going to give you an example of what happened with me. I was blogging for a client a couple years ago, and she was trying to figure out what she wanted her topics to be, and I wanted her to give me some deadlines, and so we finally decided we needed a calendar. So we created this blogging calendar, and Jesse will talk to you a little more about how we work this out with Crew. Choose your themes, choose your topics ahead of time, draft the title, set the dates, assign the posts, and it should be a lot smoother. Now, that means that you've got work up front, but it should make it easier throughout your busy season. I don't know if your nonprofit is like Crew, but Crew has a really, really busy season in the winter, and summer is the time for slowing down and kind of getting ready. So if you can get ahead and do a schedule, this is what it looked like for the, this is an accounting client I was working with. So we chose a month, we chose the theme, who we were writing for, and here's the title. We picked who was going to write it, and made sure that we knew when it was written, so everybody could stay on board with it. So scheduling ahead of time and choosing themes ahead of time that work, that's really important. Not to say that you're not going to blog during your busy season, because things come up and you want to stay on top of current trends. So you can plan your calendar, you can plan when you're going to blog, plan your titles, and then know that at some time during the year you're going to add a blog about something that comes up that makes it more timely. So that's kind of the gist of how to blog, and I'm going to turn it over to Jessie, and she's going to tell you what she's done with Crew and how we sort of made it work better for her, and then we'll come back with some questions. Okay?
Thank you, Deb.